This cultural asset map project is based on the Kale Elementary School community in Charlottesville, Virginia. Kale Elementary School, one of the Albemarle County public schools in Charlottesville, serves an extremely diverse population of 500 students. In the Spanish-English dual immersion school, roughly half of the students come from middle and upper middle class suburban planned communities, while half come from a large mobile home park off of Old Lynchburg Road called the Southwood community. I learned about this very diverse community by interviewing families and teachers at the elementary school, as well as staff at the Southwood Community Center. I learned about the demographics of the school, and I also learned that 46% of the student body qualifies for free or reduced lunch. Kale School serves a number of different neighborhoods, including the Mill Creek, Mosby Mountain, and Southwood neighborhoods. The residents in these neighborhoods, although diverse, are uniquely interested in making cultural connections within and outside of their own neighborhoods. In addition, the Kale community in Charlottesville is 8 miles away from the University of Virginia, making the university's resources accessible to the school. This past fall, as an example, UVA's School of Education researchers worked with Kale teachers to go on home visits instead of school-based back-to-school conferences. There are many community organizations in and around Kale, some of which have strong connections to the Kale community, others who are disconnected. In the Southwood community, there is a large community center where a Boys and Girls Club runs after-school programs. Though the connection could be stronger, teachers and after-school counselors often collaborate to support students academically. The Habitat for Humanity also has an office there as they're developing affordable permanent housing in this community. This organization and the school are largely disconnected and could develop their relationship further. The Women's Initiative, an organization that aims to provide wellness activities, as well as Ready Kids, an organization that provides therapeutic counseling for children, are both a part of the community as well. These school and these organizations have worked together intermittently, but there could be a stronger connection and goal setting to benefit the students and the families. There are several religious organizations and churches that provide spiritual and material assistance for the community, and a plethora of local businesses are present in the community, which could be tapped to provide resources for the school and could provide excellent opportunities for students and their families to participate in the economy of the local community. In addition, there are many home-based enterprises in the community, from construction to cooking, childcare to transportation services, which are a strong part of the community's economic possibilities. One of the questions I asked throughout this project was if this community mapping could help to resolve some of the equity issues at Kale. To learn more about equity, I went to the National Equity Project's website and pulled this definition. It was very helpful in determining what the equity challenges were at Kale. The equity challenges at Kale are similar to those in our different schools in Albemarle County. For instance, teachers and parents working in isolation of one another due to linguistic and cultural barriers are leading to a Latino student achievement gap. There's also a lack of asset-driven conversations about families amongst staff, and that causes teacher practice to be culturally disconnected from students. Since Latino student achievement and the cultural connection between staff and the Latino student and family population was at the center of what seemed to be the equity gaps at Kale, I decided to take a closer look at the Southwood community, where the majority of our Latino families live and work. And I found that through a process of determining the cultural assets of the community, I identified 6 cultural assets amongst the community here in Southwood. These cultural assets are Spanish language skills, aspirational goals for children, cultural knowledge and pride, entrepreneurial spirit, community interconnectedness, and collective resources. For Spanish language skills, I noticed that 90% of families speak Spanish at home in the Southwood community. This bilingual influence actually helped create a dual immersion program at the school that has been one of the only ACPS dual immersion programs and is now at the middle school as well. Also, an asset is the cultural knowledge and pride that the families exhibit at the school. And this leads to a lot of great opportunities for partnership in the children's education. The community also has a lot of aspirational goals for their children. In fact, the attendance rate for the families from Southwood is well above the average for the state. Researcher Tara Yasso at the University of California says that aspirational goals for children are a type of cultural wealth that educators need to recognize. In fact, in the community, when parents were asked to come to a college information night to support their children who would like to obtain college degrees, more than 100 parents attended. There is also a sense of community interconnectedness that could really work to boost the Latino community and the teacher connection at the school. In addition, it's clear that the Southwood community has an entrepreneurial spirit and that the families there have tons of commercial skills that could be used for the benefit of their children's education. There are also collective resources in the community. And one Latino teacher who grew up in the neighborhood said that there is an assumption that there are no material assets in the community, but that that's simply not true. He reported that families were extremely hardworking and that the reason most families did not own their own homes was because of immigration status issues and not because of poverty. So the question then becomes, how could the community's rich cultural assets lead to the kind of strengthened learning partnerships that could close some equity gaps that Cale has? Well, let's go back to the equity challenges here and take a look. The first is the Spanish language skills asset. Mobilizing this asset could include strengthening the dual immersion program and also using family support for teacher instruction in the immersion program, determining what the family's instructional goals are in Spanish language, and creating a dual immersion advisory committee made up of the Latino Spanish-speaking parents and the dual immersion teachers working together. The entrepreneurial spirit at Cale's Southwood community, mobilizing this asset could mean that the parents could be tasked with tying industrial real-world knowledge into the curriculums of the school. In fact, schools, families, and community organizations can work together to find funding for entrepreneurial projects for the community to work on together. The community interconnectedness is a major asset. Parents have already organized themselves into a powerful communication network. So the school administrators can ask for school community news to be relayed through discussions within the community. And teachers should be able to rely on families as experts by having them make announcements in home language for the community instead of hiring expensive interpreters. The cultural knowledge and pride is a great asset of this community as well. In fact, teachers need to learn from parents and incorporate cultural knowledge into instruction in content and in instructional practices. An article in the National Bureau of Economic Research reported gains in GPA and attendance for at-risk students when culturally relevant pedagogy was incorporated into instruction. Families definitely have a role in this, in helping teachers to understand how to bring cultural knowledge into their classrooms. Also, the aspirational goals for children is very important. To mobilize this asset, the school can organize a steering committee of parents to advise the school's equity team. Teachers could also take advantage of the community center at Southwood to host academic nights in the neighborhood instead of at the school so that families can participate. Also, there could be cross-sector coordination of scholarship opportunities for students to attend special academies and programs after schools and during the summer. The collective resources of the community cannot be ignored. Teachers can organize professional learning community meetings, tutoring, and parent conferences at the community center. Teachers could allow parents to take the lead on cultural celebrations and other resources they want to give to the school. And school staff, in turn, does not need to underestimate the family's ability to provide and contribute just because it seems like they live in a low-income community. The conclusions that I drew from this project are that all communities are asset-rich, whether they seem like it or not on the outside. And educators can determine the assets of the community that they serve by spending time within the community and having authentic discussions with community members. I also learned that analyzing the assets of the community they serve in partnerships with community members can address issues of equity and help school staff draw closer to families. And to build partnerships within the community, the school needs to work in conjunction with the expertise and cultural wealth of the families, rather than ignoring or denying assets. If cultural and community assets are incorporated into instructional decision-making, student achievement gaps can be ameliorated.